Let us talk about the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. Again, because this story, much like the line itself, just keeps on dragging on and on. You know, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if the ribbon-cutting ceremony includes a live archaeological dig. I know, at this point, the Eglinton Crosstown has been under construction for longer than some marriages, longer than some people have stayed in university, frankly, longer than a lot of people have stayed in Toronto. And we've all heard it, the delays, the overruns, the political ping-pong, the endless promises that sound like weather forecasts, always confident, always wrong. But today, I want to zero in on a very specific piece of this absurd puzzle, a detail so staggering that when you say it out loud, people laugh first because they think that you're joking. So here's the latest as of August 6, 2025. Metrolinx, the fine folks who brought you hits such as Delayed Again and Oops Wrong Concrete Mix, have announced that we are, brace yourself, almost ready to begin the final phase of testing before the line can open. And this is where it gets good. The vehicles, the fancy Flexity Freedom LRT trains, are now undergoing serious testing. Why the sudden emphasis on serious? Because apparently the testing before this wasn't serious. Maybe it was whimsical testing. Maybe the vehicles just rode up and down Eglinton for fun, had a nap and called it a day. But here's the real kicker. For those Flexity Freedom vehicles, the ones you and I were promised would be the future of Toronto's transit, they are now 10 years old. Yes, 10. Not in dog years, real honest-to-God calendar years. Think about that. A child born when these vehicles were delivered is now in grade 5 and could probably draw a better project schedule than the one Metrolinx used. I mean, what do you even call this? Prehistoric modern transit? These trains have aged in captivity. They've been marinating in mothballs inside maintenance yards for a decade. One imagines them creaking out of the garage muttering, "Back in my day, we used to test LRTs uphill both ways." These trains are technically vintage now. You could sell them as retro rolling stock, and some Etsy shop in the junction would slap a coat of paint on them and call it urban chic. If this were a used car, the TTC wouldn't be test driving it. They'd be replacing the transmission and checking the Carfax report. We have a transit project with brand new stations and decade-old trains. Imagine buying a new condo in 2025 and they hand you a fridge made in 2014. Oh, don't worry. We only plugged it in just now. It's basically new. You'd walk right out. And yet here we are with public transit. Now, Metrolinx CEO Michael Lindsay assures us that this long overdue testing phase is being taken very seriously. The vehicles are being operated daily between 6 a.m. and 2 a.m., just like they would be in real service. But you know what else happens in real service? People get on, people lean against doors, they spill coffee, they push the buttons too hard. And don't get me started on Toronto winters. Has anyone tested these decade-old trains in a salt-slush blizzard? Or were they just too busy celebrating year 8 of the construction delay with cupcakes and apology press releases? But back to the testing. Lindsay said, and I quote, "We are discovering right now the things that have to be fixed before we open this line, as opposed to discovering them when the line is open." Well, you don't say. What a concept. Fixing things before you put human beings inside them. Revolutionary. And that's just it. We've reached the point where a basic requirement like making sure your trains run reliably is treated like some kind of breakthrough. Like, hey everybody, guess what? We remembered to turn the trains on before we opened the line. Bravo. Now let's talk about the next phase. If, and it's a big if, the testing goes well over the next few weeks, we might be able to declare substantial completion by late September. You know, just in time for pumpkin spice season. Once that happens, they'll launch a 30-day trial period where everything runs as if it were in service, but without paying passengers. So basically, ghost trains running in a city that's waited 15 years for a ride. At this point, we should just start selling popcorn and letting people watch them go by just for entertainment. And remember, these aren't even new vehicles anymore. You can't even call them modern. They're vintage. If this were fashion, we'd be selling them in a Queen Street boutique for $400 a pop and calling it retro. But maybe that's the backup plan. But wait, there's more. Some of these trains apparently don't hold up so well under sustained use, which begs the question, what were they doing for the past 10 years? Taking bubble baths? How do you make a train that ages faster before it even sees a commuter? And so what are we testing exactly? Not just the vehicles, oh no, we're testing signals, elevators, escalators, lights, air conditioning, fire alarms, and every other system that could go wrong. Even the testing schedule is surreal. TTC operators are now running these trains from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. non-stop, and they're documenting everything. how the air conditioning performs, whether the door sensors behave, how the acceleration feels, all the things you'd normally test when you first get the vehicle, not when you've had it longer than most people keep a car. Don't get me wrong. Safety is good, of course. Rigorous testing is good. We all want the Crosstown to open safely, reliably, and comfortably. But you cannot make up how bonkers it is that this brand new transit line is launching with trains that should be due for midlife refurbishment by now. That's not planning, that's urban cosplay. And it's not just the trains. Remember the Science Centre station? It got renamed to the Don Valley station because, wait for it, the Ontario Science Centre closed. We are opening a station where the featured attraction no longer exists. That's like building a station called Blockbuster and then wondering where everybody went. So here we are in August of 2025, and the best case scenario is that we might get a soft launch of Line 5 before the end of the year. That is, if the decade-old trains can pass their tests, and if the stations can handle full-scale operations, and if the signals don't start speaking in Morse code. In most cities, when you roll out new trains, the big worry is, will they integrate with the rest of the system? In Toronto, the big worry is, will they make it to the opening day without being declared historical artifacts? Right now, a September 2025 opening looks very unlikely. We will just have to watch and see what happens at this point. Politicians may be confident in the project, and yes, I think it will open one day, obviously, but it's just a matter of what else can happen at this point that can delay it even further than the, well, let's say, 5 years so far. But let me end on a more hopeful note. Maybe, just maybe, we'll get there. Maybe these old but technically new trains will hold together. Maybe the elevators won't jam. Maybe the ghost trail will go off without a hitch. And maybe, someday soon, someone will actually get to take the Eglinton Crosstown to work and arrive on time. Wouldn't that be something? In the meantime, let's all give a warm round of applause to the 10-year-old trains finally being tested, the project managers who bravely overslept every deadline, and to all of the people in Toronto for waiting patiently as their city built the world's longest-running transportation teaser trailer. I hope that you liked the video. If so, please give it a like. If you're not subscribed and want to be notified of new videos that are released, please click on the Art Toronto button here. This is the video that I would recommend for you to watch next, and I'm sure that you're going to love it. Here's the playlist for all of the latest in transit news and views that you're going to find very informative and interesting. And finally, here is the latest video. Thanks for watching, and happy transiting.